Jeff, let's talk some baseball, and not with you and I who don't really know baseball, but like to say we know baseball, with a man who really knows baseball. With spring training starting this week, let's talk to the man who's helped find the players that we hope to be watching. The Philadelphia Phillies international scouting senior advisor Sal Agostinelli. If I can talk this morning, Sal, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. Just down here digging things out, trying to, we got heavy snow down here in DR right now.
I know you're in the Dominican Republic, and Jeff and I saw you, and it was like, wow, we have ice on the ground. You're like sitting out there in golf shirt and happy man right now.
And shorts.
Yeah, and shorts. Before we get to the individual players, I do want to ask you to talk about evaluating players at young ages. You're somebody who's found guys very young. You start seeing prospects at 13, 14 years old. It's hard enough to evaluate these guys in high school in the States. How do you try to project a 20-year-old, let alone a 25-year-old, how they'll handle the big leagues?
Well, it is, since I started, obviously I was a director of international for 27 years. And in the last few years, I'm senior advisor helping Derek out. And you know what? It's become a lot different. I think the dynamic of where it was and where it is really changed a lot. So, when I first started, it was, 10, 15, 20 grand. You sign a bunch of guys and hopefully you get them to the big leagues. You sign guys with tools. Now the guys are so young because the competition level is off the charts to try to get these young players. So the attrition rate becomes larger, and you'll see a lot of guys honestly losing their jobs because of these things. And the thing is that, a lot of people got to understand that there's, because of these guys being so young, when you see them, they're the best of the lot, and, you project their families. There's a lot of a dynamic that goes into biomechanics, what the father and mother look like. You know what I mean? There's just so much. We have, strength and conditioning guys that measure a lot of the data, the metrics on what we think they're going to be. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, we do the best job in probability, but there's still going to be a lot of mistakes, because just because you're really good at 13 doesn't mean you're going to be really good at 25. But we try to do the best we can. You know what I mean? And that was like in a nutshell. Like I know it's kind of a broad answer for a complicated question. You know what I mean?
The problem with today, I see, is what you were talking about, is there's a lot of money now.
Sure.
Back in the day when you started this, you had players that you could take a lot of risk. You could I remember going to spring training and there would just be loads of guys, international guys there. And you could see that there were a whole bunch of them that could throw 95 to 100 miles an hour, but you hoped that one or two of those guys could eventually get the ball over the plate consistently. Now you're throwing, like, if Ranger Suarez came up today and you had to find him, how much money would he have gotten versus what he actually got?
He would have got with his command. I mean, he had command at a very young age, and even in the Venezuelan league, he had that one year where, he struck out 89 batters in, I think, 87 innings, and he had one strikeout. So, like, with that delivery and that arm action, I would say he would easily get over $2-3 million.
And at the time, he got 25,000. And you helped find him. So, I mean, it goes to show you just how much this has all changed and moved along. And I mean, you saw him at the time. I went back and looked for Rangers quotes, your notes about him. This kid could surprise. I see him as a back end of this rotation lefty who you could look up one day and is a go-to guy. What's it mean to you as somebody who watched this 16-year-old and found him for 25 grand to have seen him pitch for the Phillies in the World Series, have the success he's had, and now go on to be with the Red Sox and be rewarded for the work that he's done?
I mean, first of all, everything I do, is with humility. You know what I mean? And, I'm just very blessed to have a job. I don't want to be cliche, but it's just, my whole life has been in baseball. I get a little emotional, but, I've been, I signed when I was 20 years old. I'm 64 years old, and I'm very lucky to be involved in baseball, to be a Philly for 37 years, to be part of this. And, And just getting back to the Ranger Suarez is when you see something like that, after all the nights on the road, after all being away from your family, making mistakes where you have to make not excuses, just look people in the face, say, I might have screwed this one up. But, it's just really nice to have every once in a while for something good to happen, because there is a lot of mistakes in it. And you take a lot of punches, you know what I mean? And every once in a while, you hit on one, and it's really, like Carlos Ruiz catching that last pitch of the World Series, like things like that, I mean, just so many things that at the end of it, it just makes it all worthwhile, but you always do it with a humbleness that, that we're just really, I go around this island and I see the people that poor, and I have an opportunity to change their lives. I really, for me, that's probably even more important than signing big league players and all that. That's probably more important to me, to help people and, try to change their lives. So, anyway, it's just a really, really humbling experience to have a guy like Ranger get to the big leagues, Carlos get to the big leagues, and all the rest of the guys that I got there. But remember, I had a lot of help with that, with my staff and all that too,
Sal, it's easy well, it's not easy, but you're a humble guy. But we will tell you, and we said this before you came on, is you're the beginning of hope. And the people in your profession are the beginning of hope for those of us that love baseball, because it is an international sport now. And this is not, while we all have to worry about AI and we have to worry about statistics and all of those things, people is how you find them. Your relationships, how much time does it take to develop relationships in all of these different countries? Like Ranger came from Venezuela. You can't just get on a plane, go down to Venezuela, meet with a guy and sign them. You have to know the coaches down there. You have to know a bunch of different people. You have to know family members of family members. And you did the same thing with Arun Escobar. Like, how hard is it to develop these relations, and how long does it take to develop all of this?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Rangers from Puerto de Cuesta, which is outside Corora, which is probably 4 or 5. I don't want to be, because the Venezuelan people listening might say, "Oh no," but it's probably around 5 hours from Caracas, and it's in the middle of nowhere. It's like on the road from Corora to Maracaibo. But anyway, we had a scout named Surdo who was digging guys out, and he brought. I told you the story years ago about him being an outfielder. I don't know if you guys knew the story, and I walked up to him and I said, "I don't know if the bat's going to work here, Ranger." And I didn't think he was too happy about it, hearing that. But he got on the mound, and but as far as relationships, I think it's a personality thing. I'm blessed with the ability to be able to talk to a lot of people and engaging with people, and I think that our staff. I like having guys on our staff that have that type of personality trait, because you get to know the families, get to know the people, you get to know, and the other thing is, at a game, when you go to a game, whether it be a tournament that we go to, you talk to people at the tournament. Believe it or not, people like to tell you about what they know about those people. So the more you know about the people, you know about their makeups, you know about their families. I think, and we have a really good staff in all parts of the world. Not only, our guy in Taiwan, youngster Wang, he's fantastic. I mean, we got guys all over the place that are really, really good, and that gives us an ability to be lucky enough to go out and get a guy like Ranger. You know what I mean? By having the right staff and the right people.
You mentioned the people and having people all over the place. You've gone to non-traditional baseball countries to find talent. I mean, how important is expanding the map like that when everybody's kind of fishing in the same ponds now? I mean, you guys have gone to Russia, you've gone to other countries to find players. How much does that matter as you expand your effort?
Well, what it's interesting that you say that, because we go to a lot of international tournaments, whether it be the WBC, all the tournaments. I go, we go see the world, the 15U championships, the 18U championships, and every one time you'll go to a tournament and you'll see like a team from a non-traditional baseball place come, and you're like, oh my God! Like, I went to Italy and I went to the European Championship, because I usually go there once a year just to catch that one tournament, because the Netherlands always had some good players. and the Italians. Those are the two best teams in Europe. And I saw Samuel Altaguiri, pitching there. I was with Chalal Mendez, our scout in Venezuela, and I said, God, man, this kid's throwing 88 to 91, and he's 15 years old, 16 years old, with a good breaking ball, and he's 6'1". I'm like, what else are we going to get? So if you don't scout him, you have no chance of getting him. And I think part of the problem why the non-traditional, players are not coming out is because we just don't have enough resources to go to those countries. Because you'd be surprised, almost every country, whether you go to, India, like I went to a tournament one time, I saw Pakistan's baseball team. You know what I mean? Every country, believe it or not, has a baseball team. Some way, somehow, as little as it could be, Czech Republic, they have baseball players. All over Europe, the Germans, they have baseball players. And you just got to go look. You know what I mean? And obviously, it's slim pickings because they're not, they don't have quite the, the infrastructure there. But if you go there and you dig them out, obviously we can't spend a major portion of our team digging those guys out. But we do have a scout in Europe, Claudio Serrato. Anyway, I don't want to take a long time on that, but you got to look. If you want to see them, you got to go find them. You got to dig them out. You know what I mean?
It's surprising to hear that there are teams like in the Czech Republic and Germany and stuff. Is baseball? You're somebody who actually is more qualified than anybody we've ever talked to say this. Is baseball growing internationally?
Oh, absolutely. Almost like in Brazil, they have a huge academy. MLB just built a huge academy in Brazil. It was originally there. It was the Brazilian Federation. Now, if you take some of them soccer players and you bring them in and make them, they play, and believe it or not, they have good teams there. They'll have 5 teams at each age group. It's like a little league, and eventually they'll develop into, a team. Europe, they have their own league. Italy has their own major leagues there. They have teams in the league. I'm not sure if there's 6 or 8 teams. There's teams in Holland. Holland has the team in Amsterdam, the Pirates, who are very actually, I think Pirates are in Rotterdam. But each one of these teams, each one of these places, France, they all have. Do I think it's exploding? Australia. Australia has, we traded Curtis Mead who's Australian, to get Sanchez, the left-hand pitcher we got in the big league. We got Mead from Australia. You know what I mean? And every year, we go down and watch the under-18s in Australia to try to pick out and see if a guy comes out who's worthy of being a big leaguer, So I definitely, and look at the Japanese. We always knew they were there, but look what the impact they're doing in the big leagues. You know what I mean? The Korean league. Anyway, I don't want, me, I could keep going, but
and we could keep listening.
There's a lot of places around the world. And, it's funny because every time you turn around, you're going to another tournament, you look in and you go, oh my God, I can't believe this team made this tournament. Think about it, Israeli team. I know they're mostly American, but they have baseball, and they did really well. Not this past World Baseball Classic, the one before that.
Yeah,
they did well. So there's baseball all over the place. Believe it or not, you'd be surprised.
Stubbs was on that team.
You just mentioned Japan. I don't want to focus just on Japan, but it seems like it's important for teams to get that first athlete from a country or a region in order to get more. Like the Dodgers had an advantage because of the history of players that they've had there. Is that common throughout the world? Is that players become more comfortable going to an organization because they see that other people were successful there?
Well, what it is, there's two different aspects of what it is. Okay. Because, I did it for years and so most of the Japanese guys, there's 2 things. A lot of them want to go to the West Coast because it's easy to go home. Mm-hmm. Seattle, big Japanese community, New York, Flushing, huge, Asian, then you'll get once they don't get the offers from those teams that are more West Coast oriented, then they're going to go with the highest bidder. That's going to get them to go. But also they always look, in my opinion, and this is just a humble opinion, is that they're looking for somewhere that they have sort of a Japanese community that they could kind of lay their, because their wives are going to come over, their families are going to come over. So I think that, that's, we made a, very, a big offer to Yamamoto, as I know, and
Right.
I mean, it's just something that I'll be honest with you, Chicago, you know what I mean? Like some of the cities that have these, I think they do a lot of investigating. These guys are very intelligent. They're very on the spot, and they care about their wives. Like I said, I don't want to be redundant, but their families coming over and adjusting to where they're going to be. But they definitely want a place where there's going to be, more, Asians. And, we're really, we've done I know we're going to get there. We're getting there. And with Dave's done a good job. We're trying to, rebuild, and we're putting more scouts in that area. And I think we're going to hit on one here sooner or later. That's going to be a good one for us.
Somebody who you did get in this international signing period is Francisco Renteria, the number 3 in this year's international class, son of Edgar Renteria.
No, he's not. He's not
sorry.
Yeah, no, that was a mistake by the guys at MLB.com. I tried to reach out to them. But, Edgar Renteria is from Colombia, and Francisco's from Maracaibo, and his parents, they're Venezuelan. 2 different countries.
See, this is why I need you to correct all the things that I'm reading that are not correct.
I keep telling Jason, stop reading.
Stop reading. That's the moral of Jeff's story. Just stop reading. But
I apologize. But
not your fault.
Not your fault.
The wrong things.
But Derek Chung said, when we're talking about the 5 tools and maybe the 6th tool of makeup, this is the best mix of tools I've ever seen since I started doing this. Can you talk to us about what to expect from Renteria?
Look, I signed a guy named Ortiz a couple of years ago for quite a bit of money. The guy was a monster. And this is what what happens when, you sign guys very early. And, Jalen was a great player. He had power. It's a difficult thing to get to the big leagues. I don't want to be Debbie Downer. Look, Renteria has every tool, makeup. He's focused, great family. We've never done so much work on these guys. I brought Georgie Valandia, Preston Mattingly. We all did so much work. We've done biomechanical stuff on his swing. We've done, all this stuff, the data on his body. His father's a monster. His father's huge. This kid can run. He can throw. He doesn't, all the data, doesn't swing and miss, has power. I mean, I'm not sure if you saw that home run hitting contest against all the major leaguers. He was 16. He hit 19 or 18 home runs in the home run hitting contest against Salvatore Perez, Acuna, Churio, all those guys. And they were like, it was pretty amazing. He's probably tools wise in 30 years and focus and everything. I expect him to be an all-star. You know what I mean? But, again, there's always, you always don't know. You know what I mean? But look, I'll put my reputation, I was the guy that, brought him in. Carlos Salas showed him to me. I said, this is a guy we need to have. He was the number 3 prospect coming out. Personally, I think he's the number 1 prospect, honestly. And my opinion, all due respect to San Francisco and the Mets, I just think he's big, strong, focused. He can run, he can throw, and he's got tremendous power. And the main thing, he's got good contact rate in the zone and stays off and out of the zone. So, I think he has every trait to be a really, really special, good player. And that's what I can say about it. So I'm so excited because I know that we got a good one here, a really good one, So that's what I could say about him,
Another good one I mentioned earlier is Arun Escobar, who I believe was a find of yours out of Venezuela. Tell us a little bit about him, because he's one, other than the 3 American players that are the top of the organization right now, and Painter and Miller and Crawford. Arun Escobar is one of the guys we should be excited about over the next few years.
Yeah. Arun was a guy, first of all, just to know, he's Acuna's cousin, and, he's from, they're from some, around a town called in La Guaira, and which is down by the airport, that has a lot of good players that come out of that area. And anyway, so he came. He was 5'5" when I saw him when he was like 14 years old. But this guy, we had guys throwing 90 plus at him every game. And I'm telling you right now, this guy never swung and missed. It was amazing. I was like, what's signing this guy? I don't care. I mean, it was amazing. Ball away, hit the ball to outfield, hit the ball up. I mean, just wherever it was pitched. Now he became Jimmy Wynn, with the body. He's so strong that, I mean, this guy at 20, I mean, this guy hits bombs. And with the contact rate and the ability to lay off, the low chase rate, I think he has a really good chance to be a really good player, impactful player, play second base, and be a frontline major league player. That's how I see him. But, just, when all the stars align for us, like we talked about earlier with Ranger, you get a guy like this. And it's a lot of dreaming, guys. It really is. You got to dream a lot,
How do you balance contact rate with power? Jeff and I have debated Justin Crawford on this show for a while. And, there's a question about whether his hitting will translate into the majors. What is the challenge for him in terms of living up to the opportunity that they're going to give him here to be the everyday center fielder, it looks like?
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, I'm just saying for me, I know the a lot of the data that comes out over the years, and obviously, I've educated myself to a certain extent, about, because I've been using it for the last 7 or 8 years, and I've done a lot of studies. I've tried to take online courses on learning, as far as, for me, the exit velocity on a general, data and analytics basis is more important to a lot of the analysts as far as, I mean, the power and, exit velocity, bat speed. For me, it's contact rate, because we're looking at guys that are younger in our department. Now, for a guy like Crawford, for me, I'm excited for the fact that this guy could put the ball, he can play center field, he can steal bases. At worst, you got a really good bat to ball guy. If he hits 10 or 15 home runs, great. If, as he gets bigger and stronger, that contact rate should equate to some power. You know what I mean? It really should. It's just because the pitchers are going to throw harder, and I know maybe he hasn't done it in the minor leagues, but that's my thought process. The more you make contact in zone, the more you put the ball in play, you make hard contact, the more chances you have at hitting home runs. And I think that it'll equate into, I don't know if he's ever going to be a 20, 25 home run guy, but he's going to be a really, really good player who puts the ball in play, steals bases, plays a good center field. You know what? That's not a bad player. It's a good player. And you can win the World Series with guys like that. You know what I mean? When you set, with guys like Schwarber and Harper around him and the other guys that we have that have the power, I think he's going to be better. And at the end, he's going to be a good player because of the fact that he's going to, with 2 strikes, he's going to put the ball in play and get a hit when we don't think he's going to get a hit. You know what I mean? And I think it's going to equate. So that's how I see things. And I may be looking at the jar half full, but that's how I see things. You know what I mean?
I'm a very old school in that I still remember the 80s when speed killed. When the stolen base, Vince Coleman, that you can go on and on with the guys that stole bases, and it kind of went away for a while. Sure. Is it me, or does it seem like teams are starting to value that again?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the baseball has evolved into, a lot more data. People love it. They don't love it. The exit velocity gets kids excited. The whole aspect of getting more people from a data aspect where they can physically read numbers and be involved. I mean, to me, it's a tool. It's a good tool to utilize with good scouting, and together you mesh those two to come and make. So I think we went really far in one direction. I think it's coming back, and I think it's being put in an area where it's actually being used better, because we as baseball guys can have good conversation with the data guys, give our opinion, and we're learning to work together in an aspect. And when we make our point, they make their point. We come up with a good, ending to the puzzle. And I think that that's where the data is going to be valuable. But I definitely think it's coming back more towards the middle. You know what I mean? In my opinion.
All right. We have two more questions. And then we'll let you go on to your next tournament.
Yeah.
First one. Who's the guy that you've seen that we don't know about yet that we should that we should be excited about in 5 years? And the second question that I have to end this thing is how many frequent flyer miles do you have?
Well, I got 5 million on American Airlines, so I'll hit that one first. That should tell you that. Never mind on Delta. I'm a diamond member in Delta. I'm a Mosaic on JetBlue, and I'm executive platinum on American. So
wow.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm lucky to do this, man. There's a lot of guys that will want to do this and sign guys. And give me that question because I'm 64 years old.
Who should we look out for that we don't know about in the next 5 years?
Yeah, when you're 69, who's the guy that you're going to look back at and smile and say that's the guy that I've been looking at that nobody else heard about in 2026?
Well, I know Ramon Marquez. Derek signed him out of Mexico, who's got a big arm. I think he's got a really good chance. But I'm going to tell you, the guy you guys already know about him. And I don't want to. I think Escobar is going to be the one that's going to. I would have said before we traded him Tait. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I think that. Escobar is going to be a really good player, man. He loves baseball. He's got a good arm. He's got a hose. He can hit. I think he's going to be a really, really good player. I mean, we have several other players. We have a guy that is a pitch. We signed him as a catcher. His name is Navas, Anderson Navas. He's at our Dominican Academy. We put him. This guy, I'm telling you, he's got the best arm I've ever seen on a catcher. I'm talking about in my life, including Pudge. I mean, this guy's got. I don't put 80s. I know you know the scale, 20 to 80.
Yep.
This guy, we put him on the mound, and I think Luke Burton and Preston did a great job. Luke came up to me one day and he goes, I got a question for you, Sal. He goes, who's got the best tool out of all these guys? And I wasn't thinking along the lines. He goes, Anderson Navas got the best tool out of all these kids. And he put him on the mound, and the kid was 95 to 98 miles an hour on the mound. I think he's a guy that could be a really good leverage reliever in the future. Or if he can polish up a little bit, he may be a surprise middle of the rotation guy. But he's got a huge arm, and I'm so excited that we thought he was going to be a catcher, but he winds up being a pitcher. So there's a name for you that I think I'm sure we have some other guys. We got a kid named Araujo, who's a really good catcher, hit 7 home runs in the DSL last year. He's got he's got a good chance, of getting there. I got several other names on here. We just signed a kid named Para, who's got tremendous physical tools. He can run, he can throw, he's got power. Like I said, he's a 6'5" runner. He probably gets off shortstop, winds up in center field. He has a chance to be a good one. And those are the guys. I don't want to, inundate your time with a bunch of names, but it's always great talking to you guys.
Jeff loves hearing about catchers in the system, so that like makes him smile and makes him feel all warm and cuddly. Sal, we could talk to you all day.
I wish we'd keep them though.
Yeah, Jeff wants to keep him in the system. We could talk to you all day. We always appreciate when you give us some time to break it down. Safe travels to wherever you are off to next to acquire your miles, and enjoy the tourneys.
Thank you so much. God bless. Take care. See you soon, guys.